So I had debated whether or not to include this in our lecture on medieval Islamic architecture, but I just couldn't not give you the pleasure of seeing this amazing private residence at Alhambra. This specific palace is the Palace of the Lions, and we're standing in the court of the lions. So we're standing in the courtyard, and on either side of this four-sided courtyard are the chambers to the prince, his wives, and his children. This palace gets the name because of this characteristic fountain in the center of the courtyard, which is held up by 12 marble lions. The courtyard, or I should say the palace, was built for Muhammad V, who ruled from 1352 to 1391. And a question that some students often ask when looking at these, palace complexes, like, why are there so many different palaces? Why don't they all just stay in the same palace? Well, as you would inherit, maybe you don't want your dad's old place. You want to exhibit your own power over your time of rule. And so it would be very common to build out onto and add to the palace structures. Perhaps your mom still is there, your aunts are still living there, so they can have that palace even though your dad died. And then you and your wives and your kids, you can occupy this one. And then, where's your brother gonna live? Okay, well, he needs his own, he's over there. So you would have these personal spaces within a larger kind of family palace structure. And as I mentioned before, many of these palaces were destroyed with the Reconquista. Fortunately, we still have the Palace of the Lions, which, as I said, is named after this characteristic fountain in the center of the courtyard. It's a low, shallow basin held up on the backs of 12 marble lions, and they each shoot out a stream of water and into this circular pool. Originally, the space that you see covered in gravel, which I think today is actually covered in slabs of marble. But anyways, the original courtyard would have had a garden. So we would see this fountain of lions, and then surrounding it would have been fruited trees and flowers and blossoms and butterflies and bees and birds chirping all around. But as I said, I think that this gravel, which was not original, I think it's now torn out for like marble tile flooring. Anyways, so we should now not be surprised with the use of figures like these lions, because this is not a sacred space. This is not a mosque. This is a private residence. I love this detail of this lion here. Isn't he adorable? So the jet of water would stream out and into this central pool, and then it would be also connected to 4 other channels of water that come out of the 4 chambers centered around this courtyard. So again, we see the use of water, the water to connect these 4 rooms into a courtyard, and then adding that sound of the jetted water, right, spilling out of their mouths, and then there would be jets at the ends of each of these channels that would push the water, so we'd have this ripple, this kind of river sound coming through the space. Beautiful. The courtyard is surrounded by 124 marble columns, and these stilted arches also create pathways that connect all of the four main chambers. So do we see characteristics of the Islamic architecture we learned last week? Yes. We see stilted arches. We see a hint of a horseshoe arch. We see multi-lobed arches, right? And then we also see that gorgeous play of geometric pattern along the surface in this carved stucco. In addition, above the capitals, there are carved poems in calligraphy, right? So you see that decorative script. The entire space has this restricted color palette of that warm yellow, butter yellow stucco. Here, like this aerial view. It's a drawing, but it does help us understand how the basin connects into the four spaces. What was I saying? Oh, yes. The color palette is limited to this soft, creamy butter yellow of the stucco. And with that, we get texture in the light and shadows that play along the surface. The entire palace is covered in this. The courtyard, gardens, and then it would have further been carried through in the restricted color palette of the furniture and the carpets and the clothing. Like here you can see a hint of some of the blue that would have outlined the calligraphy along the top of the capital. So did you hear what I said? This restricted color palette of creamy butter yellow stucco, and then those hints of blue that would have been in the water and the green of the garden. This limited color palette of green and blue and this soft creamy white would have been carried through in the furnishings and the fabrics that they wore and the carpets on the floor. So everything would have seemed in harmony in this palace. Wow, 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 wow. It was to be a paradise for the ruler. Isn't it beautiful? I just want to show you these pieces because it's just so pretty. You can visit Alhambra. It is open to the public. Visitors to his palace, the Palace of Lions, they described his house or his residence as the gold fringes of lace hanging from the sky. Here we are inside the courtyard looking up into that complex wood inlaid ceiling. Yeah, here, see, this is a more recent photograph of the courtyard, and it's been tiled over in marble. So with that, I have to leave. You and I, we have to leave Alhambra, but I hope you had a good time. Bye.